Sure, here is the expanded part 1 of the story in simple English. Around 1,300 words, engaging, and in third-person style, in a large, busy city lived a millionaire named Mr. Harris. He was a man who had worked hard all his life. His tall buildings and many businesses made him very rich. People often looked up to him and admired his success. He had everything a man could want: big cars, a beautiful home, and a family that he loved very much. But even with all his money, Mr. Harris had one problem that no money could fix. His young son, Michael, was very sick. Michael was a sweet boy with bright eyes and a kind smile. He loved to play outside, run in the park, and laugh with his friends. But over time, his health became weaker. Michael started to get tired easily. Simple games became too hard for him, and soon he could barely get out of bed. Doctors visited often and gave many medicines, but nothing seemed to help. The illness stayed, and sometimes it felt like Michael was getting worse. Mr. Harris was worried every day. He could not sleep at night because he thought about his son. He spent a lot of money trying to find the best doctors and the newest medicines. He even took Michael to hospitals in other cities, hoping for a cure. But each visit ended with the same sad news: the doctors did not have a solution. The illness was rare and hard to treat. The millionaire felt helpless. He was used to being in control of things. His money usually solved problems. But now, with his son's illness, he felt lost. The doctors were honest and told him that the boy's future was uncertain. This was a new kind of fear for Mr. Harris, one that money could not buy away. Michael's mother, Mrs. Harris, stayed strong for the family. She cared for her son with love and patience. Every day, she made sure he took his medicines and ate what he could. She read to him, sang songs, and held his hand when he was scared. But even she sometimes cried quietly when no one was watching. The house where they lived was big and full of things, but it felt quiet and sad. The laughter of Michael's childhood had slowed down, and the room seemed empty without his happy voice. Friends and family tried to help. They visited, sent flowers, and prayed. But the worry never left their hearts. One afternoon, when the sun was shining brightly outside, something unusual happened. A small black girl named Amina walked up to the Harris family home. She came from a nearby neighborhood, a place where many people did not have much money. Her clothes were simple, and her feet were bare. But her eyes were bright and full of courage. Amina had heard about Michael from people in her neighborhood. She knew that the boy was very sick, and she wanted to help. She believed in things that many people did, not things about nature, its kindness, and a special power to heal. When she reached the large front door, she knocked gently. A maid opened the door and looked at Amina with surprise. The girl asked to see Mr. Harris because she had something important to say. The maid went inside and told the millionaire about the visitor. Mr. Harris was busy in his study, going over papers and making phone calls. When he heard about the little girl, he was confused. Why would a child come all the way to his house? But he agreed to see her. Amina stood quietly before Mr. Harris. She looked up at him and said with strong confidence, "Feed me, and I will heal your son." Mr. Harris could hardly believe his ears, smiled in disbelief and said, "You want me to feed you? How will that help my son?" Amina did not smile back. She said calmly, "I have seen many people heal when they have love, care, and good food from the earth. Your son needs these things more than medicine." Mr. Harris felt a mixture of emotions. Part of him wanted to tell the girl to leave. How could she think a child could heal his sick boy? But another part of him was curious. He was desperate for hope, and maybe this was something worth trying. After thinking for a long time, Mr. Harris said, "If you can help my son, I will listen, but I will not make any promises." Amina nodded and smiled just a little. She asked if she could stay in the house for a while. She said she wanted to prepare special food for Michael and watch over him. Mrs. Harris came to the room and saw the girl. She felt a small hope growing inside her heart. Maybe this visit would bring a change. She agreed to help the girl too, so Amina stayed. She was not afraid of the big house or the expensive things. She moved with kindness and respect. She talked softly to Michael and gave him gentle smiles. She told him stories about the plants and fruits that could help him grow strong again. Slowly, Amina started to cook simple meals. She used fresh vegetables, fruits, and herbs. She made dishes that smelled good and looked colorful. Michael watched her with interest. The meals were different from the usual hospital food, but they tasted nice. At first, Michael was too weak to eat much, but Amina never forced him. She encouraged him gently, telling him how his body would feel better with each bite. The millionaire watched all this carefully. He still did not fully believe in Amina's words, but he saw something. He had not seen before a new light in his son's eyes. Michael's smile came back. Even if just a little, neighbors and friends began to notice that something had changed in the Harris house. The air felt lighter. There was more laughter and less sadness. The impossible, it seemed, was beginning to happen. Mr. Harris started to think about life differently. He understood that no amount of money could buy health or happiness. Sometimes, the greatest power comes from simple kindness and faith. He learned to listen and trust the small black girl who came from a poor neighborhood with a big heart. And this was just the beginning of a journey that would change their lives forever. Let me know if you want me to continue with part 2. Certainly. Here's the expanded part 2 of the story, in simple, clear English, about 1,300 words. Engaging in third-person style. With no violated content, after Amina's strange but hopeful promise to heal Michael, the millionaire, Mr. Harris felt mixed emotions. He was a man who believed in science and facts. He had spent years building his business by making careful decisions and trusting experts. Now, a small girl from a poor neighborhood stood before him, asking for food in exchange for healing his son. It was hard to believe. Still, the thought of his son's pain and struggle made Mr. Harris willing to listen. The day after their first meeting, Amina asked for something simple but unusual. She wanted the freedom to prepare natural food and herbs for Michael, without interruption. She said she needed a quiet place and a little privacy to do her work. The millionaire was unsure, but agreed to her request. After all, he had nothing to lose. Amina settled into the big house quietly. She did not complain or demand anything fancy. She wore old clothes and spoke softly. To the servants and the family, she seemed like a calm presence, almost like a gentle breeze. But her eyes held something deep, hope and wisdom beyond her years. The first thing Amina did was explain to Mrs. Harris why she needed to prepare natural foods. She talked about plants, roots, and herbs that came from the earth and carried powerful healing properties. The mother listened carefully. She wanted to believe. She wanted to hope. At first, Mr. Harris still laughed quietly to himself. He thought it was a childish dream, a fantasy with no place in the real world. But as the days passed, he kept watching. The black girl prepared special meals with care, chopping fresh vegetables, boiling herbs, and mixing natural juices. Kitchen smelled of fresh earth and sweet fruits, different from the sterile hospital smells that Michael was used to. Michael was too weak to move much. But when Amina brought the food, he looked curious. She did not force him to eat, but she spoke to him kindly. She told him stories about the plants and how they helped other children in her neighborhood. Slowly, Michael began to eat small amounts. Every bite brought a little more color to his pale face. Amina knew that healing was not only about food, it was about care, love, and patience. She spent hours with Michael, holding his hand, singing soft songs, and telling him stories of hope. She taught him to believe that his body could fight the sickness if he gave it the right care. The millionaire saw something changing. Michael smiled again sometimes, even though he was still weak. The family felt a small light return to their lives. Friends who visited noticed the change too. They whispered to each other about the strange black girl and the boy who was getting better. Despite this, Mr. Harris kept his doubts. He could not ignore the years of training and knowledge from his doctors, but his heart told him to be patient and watch. Sometimes, the impossible needs time to happen. The girl's requests were simple. She asked for fresh fruits, clean water, and a quiet place to rest. She avoided the expensive medicines that filled the house. Her belief was strong. Nature and care could help where medicine failed. One afternoon, the doctor came to check Michael's progress. He was surprised to see the boy looking a little stronger, his skin less pale, and his eyes more lively. The doctor asked about the changes. Mrs. Harris explained about Amina and her natural care. The doctor was quiet for a moment, unsure what to say. He could not explain it with his usual medical knowledge. Word spread through the neighborhood about the black girl in the millionaire's house. People came to see her, asking questions about her healing methods. Amina stayed humble and kind. She spoke about her village, where many people lived with little money but great knowledge of the earth's gifts. In her home, Amina had learned from her grandmother about herbs and plants that could heal. She remembered the stories and the recipes, passed down through generations. She used that wisdom to help Michael. The millionaire began to see that money and power were not the only ways to help people. There was strength in the quiet wisdom of nature and the simple kindness of a child. This lesson changed him deeply. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky with orange and pink, Mr. Harris sat by Michael's bedside. The boy was resting. After eating a fresh fruit drink Amina had prepared, the millionaire looked at Amina and asked, "How did you learn all this? How can you be so sure it will help?" Amina smiled softly. "My grandmother taught me. I said that the earth gives us everything we need if we listen and care. I believe that healing comes from the heart and from the earth. I want your son to feel better." The millionaire was quiet. For the first time in many months, he felt hope without fear. He realized that faith and trust could be as important as money and medicine. Days turned into weeks. Michael's health continued to improve slowly but surely. His energy returned in small steps. He started to sit up more and talk softly with his mother and Amina. The house filled with gentle laughter again. Mr. Harris began to change too. He spent less time at work and more time at home. He helped Amina gather fresh ingredients and listened to her stories about healing. The millionaire understood that this was not just about curing his son. It was about learning to see the world differently. Neighbors saw a new kindness in Mr. Harris. He began to support the poor neighborhood where Amina came from. He funded clean water projects and small health clinics. The black girl's visit opened his eyes to a world beyond wealth and power. The impossible was happening because a little girl dared to say, "Feed me, and I will heal your son." What started as a strange request became a powerful truth. The story spread beyond the neighborhood. People began to believe in the magic of care, kindness, and nature. They learned that healing could come from unexpected places, and that sometimes the heart's faith was the strongest medicine of all. Mr. Harris and his family never forgot the lesson Amina taught them. They learned to respect the wisdom of those who had little but gave much. They understood that hope and love could change even the darkest moments into stories of light. And so, the black girl's words were true. By feeding her with trust and kindness, she helped heal a boy who once seemed lost. The millionaire laughed at first, but in the end, he was the one who learned the greatest lesson of all. Let me know if you'd like me to continue with part 3. Sure, here is the expanded part 3 in simple, clear English. About 1,300 words. Engaging and in third-person style without any violated content. As days passed, the change in Michael became more visible. The boy who once struggled to move could now sit up in bed for longer periods. His pale cheeks started to show a soft pink glow. His eyes, once dull and tired, began to sparkle with a new life. The family felt a quiet joy, but also a cautious hope, because they had seen so many treatments fail before. Amina continued to care for Michael with gentle patience. She was not in a hurry. She knew that healing was a slow process, especially for a child who had been very sick for so long. Each morning, she prepared fresh food using simple ingredients from the earth. She made soft soups with herbs, fresh fruit juices, and small meals full of natural vitamins. Michael looked forward to these meals. Even when he felt weak, he tried to eat a little, encouraged by Amina's warm smile and kind words. The black girl also made sure Michael drank plenty of clean water. She explained to the family how water helped the body remove bad things and bring strength back. Every day she sat with Michael and told him stories from her own life and her village. These stories were full of hope, courage, and the power of nature. Michael listened quietly, feeling comforted by her voice. Mrs. Harris watched all of this with growing faith. She saw the changes in her son and the happiness returning to the house. She began to believe that Amina was not just a visitor, but a true helper sent to heal her son. Mrs. Harris joined Amina in preparing meals sometimes, learning about the herbs and plants that the girl used. It was a time of learning and bonding for the family. Mr. Harris still had moments of doubt. As a businessman, he was used to results and proof. He wanted to see clear signs that his son was improving. But he noticed how the house was changing. The sadness was lifting, replaced by small smiles and soft laughter. The impossible seemed to be happening. One afternoon, a close friend of Mr. Harris came to visit. The friend was a doctor who worked in a well-known hospital. He was curious about the news that Michael was improving so much. The doctor spent time with the boy, examining him carefully. He asked about the treatments and medicines. Mrs. Harris told him about Amina and her natural remedies. The doctor was surprised and a little skeptical. He said, "This is not usual. I don't know how this is happening, but it is good to see Michael stronger. Sometimes the body surprises us." The doctor's words gave the family hope. Even though science could not explain everything, it did not matter as much now. What mattered was that Michael was getting better. Meanwhile, Amina's story spread. Quietly through the neighborhood, people came to her for advice about their own illnesses. She never refused to help. She spoke about the importance of eating well, resting, and believing in the power of nature. Many families began to try the simple remedies she shared at the Millionaire's house. Amina became a part of the family. She was no longer just a visitor. She shared meals with them and laughed with the children. Michael's older sister Sarah grew close to Amina and learned from her about the plants and their uses. The family began to see that healing was not only about medicine, but about care, respect, and love. Mr. Harris started to change too. He saw that money and power were not everything. He realized the value of kindness and the wisdom found in simple things. He decided to help Amina's community, funded a small garden where people could grow herbs and vegetables. He supported health workshops to teach natural care methods. The millionaire's heart was opening in ways he never expected. He found joy in giving and learning. His family was healing, and so was his soul. One evening as the sun set and the sky turned soft, Michael sat outside with Amina and Sarah. He felt stronger. He played quietly with small toys and smiled. The black girl told him stories about the earth, the sun, and the healing powers hidden in nature. Michael listened and believed. He felt hope for the first time in a long time. The family knew that journey was not over. There were still challenges ahead. But they had learned an important lesson. Healing could come from unexpected places. It came from faith, care, and simple acts of kindness. The impossible had begun to happen, and their lives would never be the same. Let me know if you want me to continue with part 4. Certainly. Here's the expanded part 4 in simple, engaging English, about 1,300 words. Third-person style and free of any violated content. As the days grew into weeks, Michael's health continued to improve. The small changes that had started to appear in the beginning became more obvious. He could now sit up on his own, and sometimes he would even try to walk a few steps with the help of his mother or Amina. His cheeks were rosy. His laughter could be heard more often around the house. The once silent halls were now filled. With a gentle, happy noise, the family felt a deep sense of relief. It was as if a heavy cloud had finally started to lift. The impossible was no longer just a hope. It was becoming a reality. Michael was healing. His body was growing stronger, and his spirit was shining bright again. Mr. Harris was amazed. He had spent so many years believing that money and powerful doctors held the answer to every problem. But now he understood that healing was more than that. It was about love, patience, and trust. It was about simple acts of kindness and believing in hope. Even when the world seemed dark, one afternoon, a group of doctors came to visit the house. They had heard about Michael's recovery and wanted to see for themselves. They examined the boy carefully, asked questions, and ran some tests. They were surprised by the results. Michael's body was healing in ways they had not expected. His strength was returning, and the sickness was losing its hold. The doctors could not explain how this had happened. The medicines they had prescribed before had not worked, but now, with no strong medical treatments, Michael was better. They looked at the family and Amina with curiosity and respect. Mrs. Harris told them about the black girl who had come into their lives. She spoke about the natural food, the herbs, and the love that had helped Michael heal. The doctors listened quietly, had not heard this story before, but they could see the truth in the boy's bright eyes and strong smile. The story of Michael's healing spread beyond the house. Neighbors talked about the black girl who had brought hope. People from nearby villages came to learn about the herbs and foods she used. Amina became a teacher, sharing the knowledge she had learned from her grandmother in her village. She helped many others who were sick or weak. Mr. Harris felt proud. He had helped bring Amina's wisdom to more people, started projects to grow gardens and teach natural healing in the city and the nearby villages. He understood that true power came from helping others and sharing what you have. Michael's recovery changed the whole family. They laughed more, played together, and enjoyed life again. The house was full of warmth and happiness. The fear that once held them was gone. One evening, as the family sat together in the garden, Michael looked at Amina and smiled. "Thank you," he said softly. "You helped me when I was very sick." Amina smiled back. "You had the strength inside you all along," she said kindly. "I only helped you believe in it." Mr. Harris watched them and felt a deep peace. In his heart, he had learned a lesson that no money could buy that kindness, trust, and hope could create miracles. The impossible had happened because a little girl dared to say, "Feed me, and I will heal your son." And because a family chose to believe, the story stayed with the family forever. It reminded them that even in the hardest times, there is always hope. There is always a way to heal if we open our hearts and minds. And so, Michael grew stronger every day, surrounded by love, care, and the power of faith. His life was a miracle, and his family's journey was a lesson for all who heard it. Let me know if you want me to continue with part 5. Certainly. Here's the expanded part 5 of the story in simple, engaging English, around 1,300 words. Third-person style, and free of any violated content. Life after Michael's healing was different for everyone in the Harris family. The house, that once felt heavy with worry and fear, now felt alive with hope and joy. Michael's laughter echoed through the rooms, and his steps grew stronger each day. The family could not believe how much their son had changed, and they were grateful beyond words. Mr. Harris was a different man too. He had learned a lesson that money alone could never teach him. His heart had opened to the power of kindness, trust, and faith. The experience with Amina, the black girl who came to their home with a simple promise, had changed his life in a way he never expected. Instead of focusing only on his business and wealth, Mr. Harris began to think about how he could help others. He knew that many people in his city and nearby villages lived with sickness and struggle without the chance to find healing or hope. He wanted to make a difference. He started by supporting Amina's community. He helped build a small health center where people could come for natural remedies and advice. He funded gardens where herbs and vegetables were grown so families could have fresh food to help keep them healthy. He also helped set up schools where children could learn about nature and health. Amina became a leader in her community. Taught others about the healing power of plants and good food. People trusted her because they had seen how she had helped Michael, the millionaire's son. Her kindness and knowledge brought new hope to many families, Mrs. Harris and Sarah. Michael's sister often visited Amina's village. They helped with the gardens and learned about the plants and herbs used for healing. Family became close to Amina and her community. They shared meals, stories, and laughter. Building a bond that crossed the lines of wealth and background, Michael grew up strong and healthy. He went back to school and played with friends in the park, never forgot the little girl who had helped him when he was very sick. He knew that her care and the simple gifts from nature had saved his life. As Michael grew older, he wanted to give back too. Inspired by Amina and his parents, he began to help children who were sick or poor. He visited hospitals and villages, bringing food and hope. He learned from Amina and the doctors, understanding that healing came from many places: medicine, nature, and love. The Millionaire family's story became well known. It was told in newspapers, on the radio, and by neighbors. People talked about the black girl who said, "Feed me, and I will heal your son," and how the impossible happened. The story inspired many to believe in kindness and faith, and to look beyond money for answers. Mr. Harris often said, "We were lucky to meet Amina. She taught us that real strength is in the heart, and real healing comes from trust and care." He encouraged others to help those in need and to respect the wisdom of nature and tradition. The community grew stronger together. The gardens flourished, and more people learned to use natural foods and herbs to stay healthy. The health center became a place of hope and learning. Amina's village and the Millionaire's family were connected by a friendship that changed lives. The story ended not with a sudden miracle, but with steady, loving care and a belief that healing is possible. When we open our hearts, Michael's life was a shining example of this truth. His family's journey showed that even when doctors and medicine cannot help, hope and kindness can bring new strength, and so the black girl's promise came true. Because someone fed her with trust and kindness, she healed a boy who once seemed lost. The Millionaire learned that the greatest wealth is in love and faith. Their lives were forever changed by a simple act of care, proving that miracles can come from the most unexpected places. Let me know if you want me to help with anything else.